the 10 objections. Objection number 4. Is God guilty of genocide? What is genocide? Wiki says genocide is the mass destruction of an entire race of people. In the Bible, we see many records of God ordering death, and one of the strongest charges laid against him is that he is the instigator of mass genocide. So if God is so loving, why would he order the deaths of an entire race? Is God breaking his own commandment? In the 10 commandments, we are told not to kill. Is the idea of killing completely immoral? The commandment has lost a little bit in translation, and the commandment should be read, "Thou shalt not murder." So what is murder? Murder is taking the life of another unjustly, without cause, and for one's own gain. God destroys the wicked. God kills the wicked. The Bible clearly states that God will destroy all the wicked, those that insist on a life of sin and selfishness and ignore his offer of forgiveness and salvation. Think about that. That will be the majority of the human race. God is going to destroy the majority of the human race at the end of time. They will be thrown into the lake of fire and completely destroyed, so that there is nothing left of them whatsoever. There will be nothing left of them. They will cease to exist completely. Should evil be stopped? If someone was going to harm someone else and was completely persistent in that and would not stop, what would you do? Does there come a point that someone is so degraded, so evil, so determined to be evil, that we can say that it is a loving act for the rest of the universe to have that individual destroyed, completely wiped out? Yes, of course, we know that to be true. We would not allow someone to run around and kill people. We would expect the police to act to stop it. So should God step in when evil has reached an unbearable level and needs to be stopped? Is God going to commit genocide? The way genocide is used as a term does not mean just the mass destruction of a race. It means the unjustified destruction of a race of people. It means murdering innocents. Does God destroy the innocent at the end of time? No, every description of God bringing judgment is that God brings judgment on the wicked. If a race of people becomes so evil, so intent on evil, refusing rehabilitation, would he have to destroy them? Should we have gone to war to stop the Nazis' mass extermination of the Jews? Or should we have left them to get on with it? Is it unjustified to kill them, to stop them committing evil? God will indeed destroy the wicked. The Bible tells us the whole of creation groans for the liberation of mankind. And when he does, it will not be an act of unjust murder, but will be an act of just judgment and mercy for the good of the whole universe, who just want the horror to end just as God does. All those that are committed to a life of selfishness and sin will be destroyed. So why the delay? Why hasn't God already destroyed us? God is waiting for the last few people to enter the ark of his salvation. Only he knows when that time will end, but we know from studying the Bible prophecies that have been completely accurate for the last 3,500 years that we live in the end times. He wants everyone possible to be saved from destruction and is sending his final invites out. Once that has finished, the judgments and final phases prophesied in the Bible will begin. So what about the children? What happens to the babies and children of those that reject God is not clearly outlined in the Bible. So we can speculate but cannot know for sure at this point of time, but we will know eventually. More on that later. But what we can say is that if you are restored to a correct relationship with God, your children are covered until they arrive at an age of accountability, which is different for each child, where they make their own decisions. So we can take comfort in that. And we also know that God does not destroy those that are innocent. What about non-Christians? The Bible teaches us that people are judged by the light they have. Not everyone has access to the Bible, but they do have access to the Holy Spirit, who is leading them and guiding them. And if they follow those leadings and live according to the light they have, they are accepted and covered. But they do have to continue to follow the leading of the Holy Spirit. If they are pointed to a knowledge of Christ and ignore it, they are guilty of rejecting that light and being disobedient to God. There will be many non-Christians in heaven who never had access to the Bible or a personal relationship with Jesus, but who have lived by the light they have. Some of these questions are extremely difficult, and we cannot claim to know all the answers, as we don't have all the facts in all the instances. Only God does. But we do know that God is absolutely morally good, so everything he does will be without fault. Which leads us to an important point. The Bible tells us that after Jesus comes to take his people home, there is a period of 1,000 years where we get to open the books and look at each judgment individually, so we can understand all of the judgments before the resurrection of the wicked and their final destruction. That includes the question of any children and whether they are saved or not saved. So even if we do not understand everything now and cannot say conclusively what happens to babies and children who are not capable of clear moral choices, God will allow us to examine all of his actions completely before he passes final judgment, so that we will understand completely. But what's most important in all of this is that Jesus is coming soon. Prophecy is being fulfilled before our very eyes. Time is running out. It is time to accept the invitation. It is all wrapping up around us. The signs are there. Justified judgment of those that refuse to turn away from their sinful practices and rejection of God is on its way.